Wait a minute, info. Wait a minute, info. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, info. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, info. Wait a minute, info. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, info. Wait a minute. It's the info man and the lion den. 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 It's the info man, yup, it's the lion den. Yup, you can't fuck with us, no, so stop trying then. Still, it's the info man, yup, it's the lion den. Yup, you can't fuck with us, no, so stop trying then. Still heavyweight, we try to infiltrate with hate. Still about my plate, but we do not take the bait. Don't hesitate when it's time to do it to it. We still do they bullshit like
information is power.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Lion Den. It's the info man and the 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 Lion Den. Raise your Raise your hands. Watch your son. This ain't no dream. You can't fuck.
Information is power.
Watch your son. This ain't no dream. You can't fuck with Diane. All in 14. Raise your ass up. Watch your son. This ain't no dream. You can't fuck with Diane. All in 14. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Lion Den. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, info. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Lion Den. Wait a minute. It's the info man and the Lion Den. It's the info man and the Lion Den. It's the info man and the Lion Den. It's the info man and the Lion Den.
Information is power. You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Everybody out there listening. This is Information Man. I got my man Lions Den with me. I had to fix a couple of things. We're actually studio live right now. We are also broadcasting through Spreaker. I want to thank everybody in the chat room that is here. Lions Den, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good, Info. How's it going this evening?
It's going all right, man. I've been a little tired this weekend. We were supposed to do this, I believe, Sunday. We're supposed to do this a little bit early over the weekend, but we're going to try to get this going. As you can see on there, everybody on the screen, you see the Jet Magazine, Lions Den. We got some folks in the chat room. Why don't you go ahead and give a little bit of love to folks in the chat room out there. I see CC Uncut. Let me mod that sister up. She's been very supportive of me. So go right ahead, brother, and give some love to folks out there if you could. And I see we got my man Tony Smith, and we got brother Doug out there too.
Yeah, I would like to get a shout out to like you said, Tony Smith, Doug, CC Uncut, Deacons of Defense, Melanin Empress, and that's basically it so far, Info.
All right, brother. Well, folks will come in as they are. It is a Monday. It's been a long after weekend. What I want to do, everybody, as you've already heard, let me fix some things right here on the volumes. But you probably have heard already that there's a situation going on right now as it relates to Johnson Publishing, H. Johnson Publishing Corporation, the Black-owned media trailblazer, files for bankruptcy. And I'm about to break a few things down. It may not be what you think it is. Lions, then let me ask you a question, brother. How many publications do you think are still Black-owned in the United States right now as far as publications? Take a guess, or let's name a few. We've got Essence, right?
Yeah.
We've got The Root.
Mm-hmm.
We
got
have the griot.
Yeah.
Now I know that the root, if I'm not mistaken, is actually owned by Univision, which is
True.
a Latino or Spanish outfit, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now Essence at one point in time was sold. Am I right or am I wrong about that?
Essence is more likely is sold by another company.
Well, what happened is at one point in time, Essence was not black owned, but
True.
from what I understand now, they were able to get Essence back under black control.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Right now, what we have with Ebony, and we know that Jet. Now let's break it down. Ebony and Jet have been a part of the black community, has been a part of the lexicon of America, Black America in particular, for God knows how long. Is that right or is that wrong, Lions Den? Lions
You're
Den.
right.
Come on now. We're live, brother.
Yeah, I'm still here, info.
So we're it's been in our history for a long time. Let me break a few things down as we get ready to move forward in this presentation tonight. I want to thank everybody out there that's here, the people that will be coming in. Johnson Publishing Company, the American publishing company that launched the magazine Ebony and Jet, filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy after a long run as one of the most influential Black-owned publications in the United States. At a time when mainstream media outlets did not make content for and by people of color. Now, I don't like that term, people of color, because anybody can put themselves in there, but we're talking about Black folks right here. Now, the family-run publishing company filled the gap with an excellent various coverages, laying a blueprint for Black-owned businesses. Okay, the builder behind a Black-owned business empire was Johnson H. Johnson. He is the grandson of a slave, started his publishing company in 1942 with $500, Lions Den. How do you think Brother Johnson, H. Johnson, was able to come up with that $500, Lions Den? Anybody in the chat room want to take a guess at that? And if you don't know, it's okay. I'm going to break some of the history down. And there's folks in the chat room that, do you see anybody in the chat room giving an answer to that?
Well, info, so far they haven't given an answer to, what you said, no.
Okay, basically what Johnson did is he took $500 loan and he auctioned, or he used his mother's furniture at a time that it was his mother's furniture in the household that was used as collateral to bankroll this business with $500 loan. Because when he went to the banks at that time in the 40s, and they weren't giving loans to Black people. Banks weren't giving Black people loans, right? We've been redlined. Right. We've been excluded out of this society, okay? That wasn't happening. What Johnson did is that Johnson, this is what he also did, this brother was a brilliant businessman, and he could be a case study of how you start businesses. He was a visionary. He was ahead of his time. What he did, brother, is that he brought some white guys with him to pose as a janitor to buy office space, right? To build the business. So he had to bring these white guys with him and act like he was a janitor when in fact he was trying to buy business space, okay, into an empire that boosts more than 10 million readers and spans magazine, books, TV, radio, and cosmetics today. So Johnson H. Johnson started this company. This is what he also did that was brilliant. Okay. He actually, let me go here because I've done some research, and what Johnson did, which was incredible, is that he went to a insurance company called Supreme Life Insurance Company, right? Mm-hmm. And he pitched the idea of a magazine concept. Well, not a magazine concept. Let me tell you what the original name before we had Jet and before we had Ebony. It was the Negro Digest. You ever heard of the Negro Digest information man? Lions Den, excuse me. Lions Den and everybody out there. Have you heard of the Negro Digest?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Okay. The Negro Digest was founded and created in 1942. So this is prior to Jet. Jet magazine didn't come along until Ebony didn't come along until 1945. Jet magazine didn't come along until 1951. But the brainchild, which started it off, was Negro Digest. And what that was about primarily is he modeled it after Reader's Digest originally. Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, Jet magazine, as we know it now, or with this Negro Digest, was a weekly publication. Ebony magazine was a monthly publication. So what he did is he went to this company that he was called the Supreme Life Insurance. Okay, it was a Black-owned company. And what he did is he pitched to about 20,000 of their employees the idea of investing $2 for a magazine or a Negro Digest magazine or a booklet that he didn't even have pen to paper yet. He didn't have ink to paper yet, right? And out of that 20,000, he was able to convince 3,000 Black people in this company to donate to him $2 to make it possible for what we've got today. And out of that $2, he got 3,000 Black folks to donate to him 3,000. And that's a hell of a deal because he got bankrolled because of that. At that time, which is a lot of money, was $6,000 in 1942 for a magazine that did not exist.
Wow.
3,000 Black folks out of 20. So he probably had some folks that turned him down, said, what is this Negro talking about a magazine? Some Negro Digest does not exist. And he used the Reader's Digest as sort of his blueprint for what he was doing with the magazine. Now, when you look at Ebony magazine, which was introduced in 1945, he used the model of Life magazine, right? Life magazine really popped out with a lot of pictures and photos and what have you. So that was sort of the model that he used, but it was focused on projecting Black imagery, okay? Now, when we talk about Black media and how important it is to have Black media and images that reflect us as a people, okay, Lions Den, and if you're listening, his goal, and if you ever get a chance, read H. Johnson's memoirs about his life and how he had to overcome a lot. What he did is his whole goal and mission statement was to project imagery, life, and the essence of Black life, whether it be through celebrity or the everyday average Black person. Okay, so when you look at Jet magazine, you had the beauty of everyone loved the beauty of the week. Everyone loved the Black society areas where you would see who got married. So it was about connecting Black life, Black essence, culture to us, because as we already know, white America or America was not producing articles and stories that were reflective to Black people. So, Lions, then what are your thoughts about that so far, brother?
Well, Info, what you're saying is totally interesting because, when we're thinking about Jet and Ebony magazine, and I remember, I did some research on my own about that. Did you know that, Jet was the only magazine that showed the death of, because remember, Jet is the only magazine that remembered what happened with oh man, I forgot the
Emmett Till, brother. Emmett Till.
Yes, Emmett Till.
Talking about. Let me break that down for you, brother. One of the first articles that Ebony magazine published was a revolutionary article that was related to A. Philip Randolph of the Portmans. Remember the Porters who were the brothers who worked on the train about equal opportunity to employment. Well, in their first issue, they opened up that issue pushing the agenda around Black people and having equal opportunity to employment. And then, okay, Ebony was the only magazine, Johnson H. Johnson was the only one bold enough, as you were about to say, brother, to publish the pictures of Emmett Till,
Right.
heinously killed by those Klansmen, by those white supremacists, by those haters in the South. But it was because of his mother. His mother, she urged Ebony or Jet, John H. Johnson, to publish this. Nobody else would publish it. Nobody. Matter of fact, to be quite honest with you, during the civil rights movement with Dr. Martin Luther King, Life magazine and many of these other publications, they weren't really following the civil rights movement. And many of the times it was the Ebony magazine that would give you the photographs of Dr. King and what was happening in the civil rights movement. So it was Ebony who pushed forth and was bold, not Ebony magazine, Johnson H. Johnson, but it wasn't published in Ebony magazine. It was published in Jet magazine, where they put the pictures of Emmett Till. And that was, some said at that time that when those photographs of Emmett Till were put in the Jet magazine, that was the catalyst that really catapulted, very much pushed and anchored the civil rights movement.
Right.
Let me give you another disclaimer here. Now, you're familiar with Joe Madison of the Black Eagle on XM, yes, right? Now, he said that he said that he knew Rosa Parks. God bless her soul. A disclaimer that this is to give information where information needs to be right. A lot of people have gone with this theory that Rosa Parks didn't want to give up her seat because she was tired and her feet were hurting. Well, Joe Madison had a conversation with her, and she told Joe Madison, "I don't ever want to hear you say that again. That's a lie." She said, Lion's Den, and everyone listening in the chat room, the reason why she did not want to give up her seat, because she was thinking about what happened to Emmett Till. Emmett Till, my brother. She was upset about how they treated the young man, how they tortured him. And she said that is what went through her mind when she decided she was not going to give up her seat. It was not because she had sore feet or that she was tired. You know, I've heard that story before, and that's a myth. It was because of Emmett Till. And once again, Emmett Till, that what happened to him really pushed the civil rights movement forward. A lot of people don't know that. You don't often hear them say that. You often hear it being just about Dr. Martin Luther King. However, there were many, many, many people who came before Dr. Martin Luther King who catapulted and pushed this movement forward, like an A. Philip Randolph. Okay, there were many people who gave up their life, okay, to the movement. So Jet magazine, Ebony magazine was always there every step of the way, brother. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, that's what I was meant to say. It was Emmett Till, and thank you for correcting me, Info, because that's the name I was bringing out. And you know, this is why the mother of Emmett Till told Jet magazine that this is why she decided to have an open casket to show the world what they did to her son during that time. And Jet magazine was the only magazine that, like you said, released all the pictures of what happened with Emmett Till's son. I mean, excuse me, what the mother of Emmett Till said, that this is what happened to her son. So this is why I said it's important for I mean, and this is why I say I miss, and you know, Info, that this is why I miss Jet, and Ebony magazine because this is the only magazines that talk about the Black issues, that talk about and really that what transpires, like you said, with respect to the civil rights movement and everything that transpires of what's going on in the Black community. Now you have all these Black owned, news like News One, the Grill, of the Root.com, like you said. But at the end of the day, ain't no comparison of what Mr. Johnson has done Mr. Johnson's publishing, what he's done to his magazines like Ebony and Jet. No comparison, info.
No comparison. Let me just say this too, Lions Den, because I have a lot more to feed the public listening to us right now tonight. Let's say peace to Real Aaron Collins. We have BB Silks is in there. Six Figures Days is in there. We got Brother Doug in there. Full Circle's in there. Sister Buckner, she's always a good sister. It's good to see everybody in there. There'll probably be other people that are coming. And Lions Den, what we want to do is have chat room participation. So make sure every chance that you get, if you see anybody writing anything that is very pertinent to our discussion, go ahead and let me know so that we can read what they're saying. Let me say shout out to everybody out there in Spreaker that may be listening. We will be doing this sort of stuff more and more at Lions Den, where we will do these type of programs together, get back to the things that we've done in the past. Let me just add this because I'm going to bring an analysis to what I think is going on, what my concerns are about what's happened to Johnson A. Johnson, the publishing. Let me just let you know right now what this brother did as a visionary. Now, not only was he able to convince 3,000 Black people to donate $2 to a magazine that didn't exist out of 20,000 that he solicited at the Supreme Life Insurance Company, but he also, at that time, they didn't have Black magazines on the stands. So what he did is he created his own demand. He got about 20 of his own friends, you might have heard this story, to go out to demand the magazine. So he created his own publicity by having people that he knew that were his friends going out saying, hey, we want this magazine, we want this magazine. And then eventually these magazines ended up on the stands. And then when his friends would go out and buy the magazines that they purchased with their own money, they would resell the magazines. And that's one of the folklores of a Johnson H. Johnson, okay, that a lot of us may or may not know about. Now, let me continue on here with some history about this brother, if you don't mind. Unlike other media outlets, Ebony and Jet highlights positive everyday achievements from Harlem to Hollywood, but they also fought boldly for racial justice, as we just talked about now, demanding equality, equal employment. As I talked about, that was one of their first issues when they introduced the Ebony magazine. Okay, and raising national awareness, as we talked earlier about Emmett Till's murder. Okay, now a brilliant beleaguered building block for Black media, Johnson Publishing Corporation, whose current CEO is Lyndon Johnson Rice, Johnson H. Johnson's daughter, has struggled to compete with the digital outlet selling its magazine to the private firms in 2016. I'm going to tell you what firm they sold it to. Now, while Johnson inspired the success of many Black-owned businesses, we're still a long way from racial equality businesses. Last year, there were only 3 Black CEOs at Fortune 500 companies. That number has never rise higher than 7. Now, let me let you all know something that you may not know, which is why this is brilliant. There's only 3 Black CEOs right now. It's never rise higher than 7, right? Check this out. Now, back in the day, Johnson H. Johnson was ranked 4th on the Forbes 500 list. Johnson is the only Black man, CEO, Black man on this planet when he was living, and still today, who there's no one else that has ever ranked higher than him. He was ranked at 4th. So the brother was a brilliant businessman. He was a visionary. Now, this is the hard pill we're going to swallow tonight, everybody. And I've got more good stuff to tell you, more historical stuff to tell you, along with what we're going to get into right now. This is the question, Lions Den. Everyone listening, what has happened to our beloved Ebony magazine? It seems to me that since his daughter took over, and there's been other agendas, or it appears that there's other agendas, that the magazine has veered away from its mission statement, which Johnson H. Johnson, his granddaughter, I don't know if she steered it away from what his mission statement is. Has Ebony gotten to what we would call reality show magazine? Has it gotten too gospel-y? Is it gotten too far off reach? What has really happened, Lions Den? Is it because of social media? Are Black people today getting our information from YouTube, Facebook, reality shows, Twitter? Is it because that there's just so much medium that we can utilize to get our information that Ebony magazine is just not as relevant, or what I would say Johnson Publishing Company is not relevant anymore? That's a question for folks in the chat room to ponder on and give their opinions. Two, I remember that you could get Jet magazine in your newsstands and in your grocery stores and in your convenience stores every week. Now, they've gone from no longer having a Jet, paper Jet magazine. You can only get Jet digitally. Okay, so Lions Den, what do you think has happened? Anybody in that room that wants to chime in?
Yeah, I think what happened was, Info, that when you have social media going on, when you have a lot of Black news, for example, like you said, with the Griot, with News One, with theroot.com, when you got all this on the internet, it's Ebony and Jet is not what it used to be. And I think the problem is that when you have the wrong people taking over Johnson's publishing, it's going to end up in a failure. So what is happening is that when people going on social media, when people going online on the internet, they want to know what's the Black issues from other outlets. And so with Ebony and Jet no longer exist, you got a lot of people on the internet that, for example, theroot.com, News One, and others are trying to give them the news, which of course with Ebony and Jet they don't have. And then just like you said, when his daughter took over, and his granddaughter took over with the family empire, it's not the same. And I believe that when Brother Johnson passed away in 2005, it's like we haven't heard from Ebony and Jet. I mean, it's still going on, but not like it used to be. So this is why I said that this is why when you got the internet taking over Black issues or Black news, Ebony and Jet is now no longer exist in society.
Okay, let me say what's up to Reg, the bad guy who's come through. Brother, give a little shout out to some of the folks in there so we can, as we break this down further. I've got some more information that I want to lay on you and everybody listening. Go right ahead and give some love to folks that are in the chat room right now.
Yes.
Good to see everybody.
Okay, I'm gonna get a shout out to Tony Smith, Kylie Girls World, the Forbidden Fruit, Muhammad is the One, CC Uncut, Twin Colin, Reg the Bad Guy, Mr. Johnson, the Prince Network, Nitty Fan Tree, The Real Aaron Collins, Doug, Full Circle.
Information is power.
I'm trying to scroll up. Okay.
We got brother Full Circle and CC Uncut. Good to see you here, sister. And great to see everybody that's come in there so far. Forbidden Fruit, thank you for being here. We got Minister Johnson in there, if I'm saying the name right. We got my man Tony Smith. Love that, brother. I like what you're saying, Lions Den. You're making some very good points, I must admit. But this is the thing that we have to keep in mind. This is going to be a hard pill to swallow. Yes, we can make the argument that, well, it's because the daughter is not running. We can make that argument that the daughter is not making right decisions with the company, and we can also say, well, maybe she is making right decisions. We can also make arguments that maybe it's just that Black people continue to have a problem. And what is that problem? We do not support each other. We continue to cry and whine and say that we need our own media, we need this and that, and we don't support our own media. And if you don't like what Ebony is doing today, then you are the consumer. You can make a demand and demand them to do what it is that they should be doing. Now, let me break down to everybody listening what the true mission statement. I'm going to re-emphasize this again. This is from Johnson H. Johnson himself. The goal of Ebony, or the goal of Johnson Publishing, is to promote the history, the presence, and the past of Black life, style, human interest, and photos, like the beautiful photo of Earth the Kit that you see on the screen right now, the America iconic. You got Dr. King on there. You can see a bunch of people on that picture if you look at it very closely. So that's where the mission statement is. Now the question is for everybody in the chat room: did Ebony get away from their mission statement, or were they already slipping and getting out of touch with what's happening? Because the one thing that is known in business is that you must stay connected to the trends that are happening in society. You must keep up with trends. And if you don't keep up with the trends in society, when you're in business, then you're going to be soon to be out of business. Okay. Now, Johnson H. Johnson Publishing Company and the magazine, Ebony, it's been around for 77 years. Okay. Now, this is some of the things that they got their hands in, which plays a role into why they're having these bankruptcy issues. I'm going to repeat this again. Jet Magazine this magazine company was originally founded under the Negro Digest, which came out in 1942 when Brother Johnson did some great, brilliant business strategy. All right. Then you had Ebony that came about in 1945. I got some more surprises for you folks. And then in 1951, Jet hit the scene, which was a weekly magazine where Ebony is a monthly. So I just wanted to lay that framework out. Now, this is what happened, folks. You know, Lions Den, that Ebony came up with the fashion fair.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with how they came up with? Are you familiar or not familiar with how they came up with the fashion fair?
Not really, no.
Okay, well, the fashion fair was a part of it. Of course, it's Ebony, right? Fashion fair was an annual fashion show that was sponsored by Ebony. Okay, and then what happened is out of fashion fair came the cosmetics. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, that Ebony or Johnson Publishing, they also went into cosmetics. And the reason why they went into cosmetics, as many may know or may not know, is because when they came up with the Ebony Fashion Fair, a lot of the makeup did not fit the skin tone of Black women. They didn't have any dark line of cosmetics. For some of you ladies out there listening, you would be able to relate to what I'm saying. So it was Ebony, or it was Brother Johnson, who came along and said, we got to do something for Black women, for our models. And they decided to venture into what we call today the Ebony cosmetic line, which was based on the fact that white America was not catering to Black beauty. This is why Ebony went into the whole fashion fair. And then the cosmetics came about. So Brother Johnson has been a trailblazer for many, many years. So that's why they have that and why they went into that area. Now, this is the downfall. One of the reasons why Johnson's Publishing filed their bankruptcy is because of increase in e-commerce, okay? Marketplace issues were impacting them, and there were costly recalls with products. Guess what really hurt them? It was their cosmetic line, the very thing that they went into for the benefit of Black women and for the fashion fair that they were putting on. The cosmetics line that they have as part of this company was really hurting them. They were not keeping up with trends, and economically, it was really affecting Ebony. Okay. Now, Johnson Publishing had to, as of right now, because of this filing for bankruptcy, they've got to sell off their assets. What are these assets? You see the picture of Eartha, the beautiful Eartha Kitt on that screen there? They've got all these historical pictures of ladies like Eartha Kitt, Dr. King. We're talking about, iconic pictures, right?
Right.
Right now, Ebony or Johnson Publishing is in a process of trying to look at all their assets and sell off what they have to keep everything afloat. Now, I got more goodies for you folks. Now, to stay afloat, they've got to sell off assets. Now, how much do you think, anybody in the chat room want to take a wild guess, how much do you think Ebony is worth? Okay, in terms of their assets. You want to take a guess, Lions, then?
Let's see. Right now, I believe Ebony, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the assets and liability is between from $10 million to $50 million.
You're right. You're right about the 10 million. It's actually between 10 and 15 million in assets.
Oh, okay.
So right now, Ebony is worth, or the Johnson Publishing has an assets between 10 and 15 million. And just keep things afloat, they've got to sell off those assets. And those assets are, like I said, iconic photos of various historical things that will fetch a nice, pretty penny. Now, let me give some folks another history. Now, remember I said earlier that Jet Magazine was something that I looked forward to getting every week. Now, come on, everybody in the chat room. You all grew up seeing the Jet Magazine and the Ebony Magazine on the coffee table of your grandmother's house, your mother and father's home, the barber shop, everywhere in black light that was on there. Now, this is a question that I would say to anybody. At that time, when Jet and Ebony were at the height of popularity, what magazine cover would you want to be on? Would you want to be on the cover of Time Magazine or Life Magazine, or would you want to be on the cover of Ebony Magazine? I myself would say I would want to be on Ebony because we knew that was in every black house in this country.
Right.
Every black house. And even your grandmother, great-grandparents, and your family would collect the Jet magazines. They would have them in the basement, piled up. Okay, you would be looking at the beauty of the month, who's gotten married. You have Dick Gregory in there. You have editorials in there. I mean, you would have fantastic things in this weekly magazine, and then Ebony would take it on home for us. So it was fantastic. Well, in 2014 is when Jet went from being something that you could buy on the stands to being put on the computer. So right now you can only access Jet magazine on computer. Okay. Now, let me give you some other history. How many of you remember in the 1980s, the Ebony Jet Celebrity Showcase? How many of y'all remember the Ebony Celebrity Showcase? And this is a question for everybody in the chat room. How many of you remember the Ebony Celebrity Showcase, which was on television, another Johnson H. Johnson publication, and who was the host? And at this time, he actually had hair on his head, and he's a well-known radio jock that comes on in the morning time that a lot of us enjoyed listening to. well-known guy. Did anybody answer that question?
Mm.
Do you know Lions Den? If you don't know, it's okay. I want to see if anybody in the chat room can answer that question. Come on, it's the Information Man Show.
Okay. Twin Colin in the chat room says that yes, Fashion Fair had the best cosmetics for Black women. I wore the makeup in my teens. Love it.
Okay.
And
remember the Ebony Jet Celebrity Showcase, and who was the host of that?
okay, Kevin 396 says Tom Joyner.
Tom Joyner, and I think Brother Doug got the question right. So as a result of that, you know what we've got to do now. We've got to hand out those claps because that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Information is power.
Woo! Right on. Fantastic. I'm glad y'all got. And remember, Brother Doug and another person that answered that question, Tom Joyner actually had hair on his head at that time. I remember Tom Joyner with hair on his head. Okay. Now I'm about 49 years old, so I remember some of this stuff. Age, but I remember some of this stuff, you know, as a kid or what have you. Now I'm about to bust y'all bubble on some more information. Get ready for this, folks. What nice, get ready for this next one. It's gonna blow your wigs back with thunder. Woo! How many of y'all remember Ebony Man and Ebony Jr.?
Oh yeah.
Ebony Man and Ebony Jr. How many of you? I bet you don't even know what the hell I'm talking about.
Ebony Man and Ebony Jr. I remember those magazines. Yeah.
Another Johnson H. Johnson publication. See, you don't see any of that right now. What is his daughter? You know, this is why I'm saying those that are in charge of this company have really gotten away from its mission. Because at one time, for brothers out there that are that say, well, you know, these magazines only cater to women. Well, wait a minute. One time they had Ebony Men,
sure did,
towards Black men, and you had Ebony Jr. that catered to the young men.
Oh yeah.
How many of y'all remember that in the chat room? Huh? Come on now.
Doug said he remembered. He said, Ebony Man, I remember that.
Hey, Doug is old as dust.
Earl Owen said he remembers. Yeah, and it said it's Just Being Patty said Ebony Man sound familiar.
Oh yeah. Tell the truth. Tell the truth, folks. Ebony Man was a real legitimate publication that came out, that was part of this empire, okay, that Brother Johnson created. Now, let me just give you some more history. I talked about Ebony Fashion Fair, right? That Ebony, the Fashion Fair cosmetics, and I'm going to give you the year. The cosmetics were started in 1973. Okay, it became, all right, the dark makeup, all right, for the models and for African American women. And someone in the chat room already explained that to us. Okay, now check this out. For those of y'all who might say, well, you know, John H. Johnson was a sellout. You know, the magazine has become too watered down. They got everybody and their mama on it. That's not what his mission was. See, Ebony and those that are running it have gotten it away from its origins. Check this out. This is a quote from John H. Johnson. He stated in 1990 in an interview, he told the New York Times that he's not happy with the fact that he had 12% of his readers. 12% of his readers in 1990. He was not happy with 12% of his readers of Ebony magazine were white. He stated, you may not like what he said, but this is the truth. He stated that he did not create a magazine to be multiracial. He created this magazine to specifically focus on Black life, Black people. So his mission was never to make a magazine that was multicultural, that would speak to everybody. So John H. Johnson actually admitted in 1990 that he was not happy with 12% of his readership being people that were non-Black. He didn't want that. Now, people can take what you want to take of it. You can say, oh, he's a reverse. That's not reverse racism, because think about this man. This is a man who was a grandson of an ex-slave. This is a man who was told he couldn't have a bank loan to create this business. This is a man who had doors slammed in his face. This is the man who dealt with blatant racism. And because that blatant racism propelled him to create a magazine.
Right.
Visionary because of racism. So if he creates something for us and he says that he wants it only to be for us, then you can't use reverse racism and say, well, you know, he don't want 12% of white folks to read the magazine. You can't use that. You can't use that. You know why you can't use that? Because who are you to tell someone who's oppressed how they should freaking feel?
Right.
Another thing about John H. Johnson, that you know who he hung around with? You know where he got this visionary? Okay, you had Swan Records. He grew up at a time with the Bessie Smiths of the world. So this brother grew up with some of the most iconic people in Black entertainment that had an influence on him. The W.C. Pandies. These are individuals who had an impact on him. And if you look at why a lot of Black businesses in the past went out of business, it's the same reason why Johnson H. Publishing is having problems right now. They're not staying in connection with trends, okay? So for example, back in the 1920s, in the early days, when you had in the early days, as radio started to take off, radio became the big thing, like we got CD players today. And if you didn't get your artists on radio, their careers were going to spin out. You were going to become irrelevant. So every century, every decade, every something comes around that impacts the marketplace. And if you don't stay on top of that, you're going to be doomed. Okay, let me tell you what's going on. How many of you right now in the chat room believe that Ebony or Johnson Publishing is Black owned? How many of you think that it's not Black owned, that it's been sold to white conglomerate groups? How many of you believe that it's not white, it's not Black owned? Say something in the chat room. Lions Den, what are your thoughts?
Well, and I'm gonna respond to that. I already knew that this company, and I just turned out that, you know, when Johnson Publication has been sold, it's been sold to a Black company if I'm not mistaken, Info, it's been sold to a company in the state of Texas. It was a Texas-based company that they sold Johnson Publications to.
Yes, exactly. Let's just go here. Let's go at a timeline now. The bankruptcy took place on April 9th of this year in Illinois, Chicago, in Illinois. Okay. It is owned, and this whole now the assets were sold off in 2016. So even though they filed the bankruptcy of this year, April 9th, but in 2016, Johnson H. Johnson Publishing or Johnson Publishing was sold off to a Texas-based company that is Black owned. And the name of this Texas-based company is called Clearview Group. It's called Clearview Group. This was in 2016. And so they are still Black owned. Now, let me let you know what you may not be aware of. The bankruptcy that they filed, which is a chapter 7 bankruptcy, it does not impact the publishing of Jet and Ebony. Let me repeat. The bankruptcy that they filed April 9th in Illinois is a chapter 7. It does not affect the publishing of Jet and Ebony. It does not impact it. So they're still going to be able to publish the magazine and put the digital magazine out, but it does not mean still that Ebony is on good footing because, like I said earlier, they've got 10 to 15 million in assets that are going to have to be sold off at some point in time. They're going to have to use those to bankroll keeping this 77-year business afloat if they can. And like I told you, they were impacted by marketplace issues, costly recalls on products, which were their cosmetic products, which really hit them hard, changing in e-commerce standards and trends, which they've been impacted by severely. Okay. And this is it's a terrible shame, but it's one of the things. And as I said before, it has a great legacy. Ebony was one of the first. Their first issue was calling out, like I said, the misemployment of Black people in this country. We talked about Emmett Till's mother. Let me just give you factual data on that. Emmett Till's mother in 1955. It was in 1955 when she really put the pressure on and told them that she wanted them to show what they'd done to her son, and they published the pictures, and those pictures were published, and it pushed off and got the civil rights movement really compelled and moving. So that's what's really going on. And so I've laid out some history. I've laid out some numbers and some information for you folks out there. It's always important to tell the truth about what's going on in our communities, in our life.
Tell the truth.
Always important to tell the truth because information is always powerful.
Information is power.
What I want to say to everybody out there is that, so I brought it home for you right now, but let's really look at this, Lions Den. What I'm concerned about is that even though they are Black owned by a Texas-based company, Black owned, and they've got the 10 to 15 million in assets, they're going to be selling off some historical photos and any of the other historical things that they have. I'm very concerned about that because we're always selling off our history. It's always getting in the hands of people who don't look like us, who get their hands on our history. And what bothers me about this is that to everybody in the chat room, do you think that Johnson Publishing is still viable? We know, like I said before, the Root is not Black owned. That's owned by Vic. That's owned by Univision. The Griot, I believe, is Black owned. We have a lot of these TV One, I believe, at one point in time was white owned, but I think they're Black owned, but they have white people on their board. Of course, we know that Roland Martin left because his show was not gaining the success that it needed to stay afloat. So there was some things going on there. And the question to you, Lions Den, and we talked about this before, is old Black media dying? Is it just not, can we just blame this on his daughter? Or can we blame this on the fact that maybe Ebony and Jet are just not talking about the issues that Black people want to talk about? Because I want to talk to you also about Mark Thompson. And I sent you a video. He was at some function, and this brother confronted Mark Thompson. And Mark Thompson is a brother who's been sort of talking greasy about the ADOS. He doesn't like it. He doesn't agree with it. And he was confronted by a guy about some other issues, saying that every time you're on MSNBC or every time you're talking about issues, you're talking about Russia. And the brother made a good point. He said the Russians are not killing Black people in America. Russians are not dropping bombs on Black people, but you're spending all your time talking about these individual issues of racism, but you're not talking about the systemic racism, what's happening to Black people overall in this country. And so he really got into Mark Thompson's grill, and Mark Thompson put his hands in his face and pushed the brother. It got real nasty. But he's part of this old Black media. And I bring it up because are they talking about the things that we want to hear? I know on YouTube, we talk about a lot of stuff on YouTube that you don't hear people talking about in quote unquote mainstream media. What does everybody think? And if you see anybody write anything in the chat that's interesting, Lions Den, go ahead and read it. Lions, Den, are you there?
I'm still here. I'm still here, info. I'm
Wait.
just trying to. I'm trying to get more information on the situation with how much money that this is really this part right here is really interesting info. It says a Clearview Group, a black-owned investment firm, helped form Ebony Media,
Okay.
which includes Ebony Magazine, Digital Magazine, Jet, and related businesses.
Mm-hmm.
In a statement issued Wednesday, Ebony Media said it breathed new life into the brand during a tumultuous time in print and digital media, and it is unfamiliar with the facts of events in the Johnson publishing business. So, really, info, even though Ebony is no longer, on shelves and stores, they already put it as Ebony Media, which is on the internet now, and it was just really, really amazing to know about it.
Okay, bro. Thanks a lot for finding that out, Lions. And I think I appreciate you digging that up, brother. I was wondering where you was at, but thank you for digging that up once again. But did you hear a little bit of what I said about Mount Thompson, Mark Thompson?
No. Mm-mm.
Well, I was saying that I think I had sent you. I think you didn't see it. When Mark Thompson was at some event, there was a brother who confronted him about why he doesn't talk about Black issues that Black people want to talk about, that we're talking about today, that's impacting us. Why does he spend a lot of time talking about the Russians and other things of that nature?
Oh,
Because the brother's point is that the Russians are not dropping bombs on Black people, they're not impacting us. There's other things that are impacting us here. Mark Thompson got a little upset with the guy, put his hands in his face, pushed him. When you get a chance, look at that video that I sent you, brother. I
I
think
got you. Okay.
I wish I could have pulled it up now, but Mark, but I'm bringing it up because Mark Thompson sort of is a part of this, what we call old Black media. And the point I'm trying to make is, could it be that Ebony, we can blame it on the daughter, we can blame it on, like I said, they may not be following the model that Brother Johnson really was trying to push. And even when Johnson was alive, there were some problems here and there. But the question I'm asking is, these magazines, are they really addressing issues that really impact Black people overall today? And could that be the reason why they could be slipping in their relevancy within the Black community? Because maybe they're not talking about the issues that a lot of us talk about on the social media like YouTube. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that when it comes to Ebony and Jet, normally they don't. I mean, back then, when during the civil rights movement, Ebony and Jet was on wall to wall coverage of the situation that happened back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got a lot of more, like you said, when you have YouTube, when you have News One, when you have the root.com, when they show political issues, Ebony and Jet ain't really not even talk about political issues that they're really talking about now. So my point I'm making is this: that we basically are on the 21st century. We only focus on the internet. We only focus on what's going on the internet, on YouTube,
Yeah.
or on social media. And then, like I said, it's the Ebony and Jet ain't I mean, when back then Ebony and Jet, they always talking about it by magazines, but now they're not as, it's not as powerful as, like I said, back then it's not as powerful as it is right now when it comes to what happened. Now we on YouTube, you and I both know info that when incident took place, when, like I said, when it comes to police brutality and everything else, people can record it. People use our cell phones to record the incidents. But Ebony and Jet don't do that. And like I said, I have greatly respect for, Jet magazine, showing pictures with Emmett Till, what really happened to him. But then now it's all about the media. It's all about social media. What happens right now? Not 10, 20, 30 years from now, but what happened right now, and people can record it on their phones of the incident and make it viral. So, with Ebony and Jet, I think that, I mean, again, they're one of the most powerful, in my opinion, one of the most powerful magazines back then I mean, it's like one of the most powerful magazines in the world. But now, when it comes to social media, it's like they no longer exist at all.
Well, let me just say this. Let me read Miss Gurley's World. She made a good point. College Gurley World. She said it's true that our issues are important issues on a whole is being hushed or watered down on mainstream media. Yeah, it is being watered down on mainstream media, and that's the problem. Now, I know Ebony magazine does these issues about stuff like Black love, and I know they had on the issue, they had T.I. and they had his wife Tiny on there. Is that right, for Black love?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I find that ironic that they put them on the cover when they've had a lot of problems in their relationship. You know, so,
That's true.
I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
I think T.I. was trying to. I think T.I. was trying to go about his business from her. I think she filed for some divorce, or he was filing for a divorce or something. I mean, they were having some issues. So I just find it interesting that of all the people that they could pick to represent, I mean, I'm not trying to throw any shade at them, but I'm just got to be honest about this. Of all the people that they could pick to represent Black love, they picked Tiny and T.I., who not too long ago were really having some volatile stuff. You had T.I. going into nightclubs, trying to punch, what's that boxer, Floyd Mayweather?
Yeah.
Because Floyd was taking photos with his girl, which I guess he's known her for a while. So they had a lot of funky stuff going on. And then Ebony picks them to be the Black love cover of all the Black people in America in celebrityhood that represent Black love. You pick, this is what I mean by being out of touch. This is what I mean by not really being in touch with what's happening in the Black community. You pick two people who really have some ups and downs in their relationship. Now, they may be trying to patch it up now, but of all the people that you could have picked for the cover, you pick Tiny and T.I. when there's a bunch of other people who you can make an argument have more stable relationships. That could be I think a more appropriate representative of that particular issue in time. So they're getting us into this Black love, girl, how to make love to your man, brother, how to bust it down on a woman. They're getting into all of this reality TV editorials. And
Right.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't think that Black men and women have a goddamn problem with what we know what to do in the bedroom. I think Black men know how to do their thing in the bedroom with Black women, and Black women know how to do their thing. That has never been our problem. The bedroom has never been our problem. Our problems are out of the bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With the interpersonal relations. We ain't got no problem with busting it open.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
That ain't never been our problem. Our problem are the interpersonal issues, right?
Yep.
Let me, not to look like a buffoon here, maybe in that issue, Tiny and T.I. have a conversation about their shortcomings in their relationship. Maybe the article touches on that. Maybe they come to a reconciliation. If they did that, more power to them. I'm just saying, when I think about an issue that pushes out Black love, I feel that you want to have people that represent it consistently. And I know they have a big family and all of that, and they have a beautiful family, and they have their problems. No couple is perfect. I'm not saying everybody's perfect, but I'm just saying, brother. So I'm just saying, when they do these type of articles and they get into the gossip type stuff, or when articles or publications like The Root produce articles where they say that the Black man is the new enemy of the Black woman, that's dangerous. See, that's
extremely dangerous.
That's the kind of stuff that makes Black men, such as myself and you and many others listening, say, the hell with The Root. I'm not supporting it. If Ebony comes out with a ratchet article, that's going to make Black men say, to hell with Ebony, I'm not going to support it. So I'm saying these are some of the factors that will turn people off from publications and women. Mm-hmm. These publications who had a different mission, as I mentioned before. Their mission was it was about uplifting the Black image,
Right.
not making buffoonery of it.
And Info, and what you said is true. I think the problem is that, let's start out with what you said about the root.com. They own, and I'm just being honest then, that when you're talking about dissing the Black man, you know that the guy who did the article is a gay Black man. I'm just gonna put it out there. Uh the second thing is that, like you said, what he said about demeaning Black men is extremely dangerous. And it also shows that it's the divider between the Black man and the Black woman. They're trying to destroy the gender wars between Black men and Black women, which we supposed to come together. And as far as T.I. and Tiny goes, Info, we already know about their about their relationship. First they're together, then they go their separate ways, and then they reconcile and everything else. But the reality is that we look at it. It's like when feminism took over on Ebony magazine and others, it's going to basically going to try to say the disrespecting the Black men. Period. And when you have that, when you have that, that's going to affect it, completely divide the Black love, because then you're going to say, well, Black men ain't this, Black men ain't that, and yada yada yada. But then at the end of the day, when push come to shove, we need each other more than we realize. So really, to be honest, Info, is that with the root.com and what they did about the Black man, they did an article about the Black man. He already know it's going to divide that. He already know that. Mm-hmm. But see, we as Black people, I'm talking about like as a couple, we have to watch each other backs. We have to feel like we know what we're doing in the bedroom, and sometimes we need to tell them stay the hell out our bedroom. We got this, because at the end of the day, you people can't just tell us, well, what kind of Black man that does this? What kind of Black woman that does this? And they don't even know about what we do in and out of the bedroom.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this: that feminism. I've been wanting to say this. Feminism. This is why Black women have to stay away from feminism. Feminism is a construct that was created by white women because white women wanted to be on the same level of control and power as white men. They wanted to control the power. And 9 out of 10 times, the first catalyst to pushing the racism was white women that were part of the Klan, or it was white women who would lie and say that this Black man raped me. And then you would have towns like Rosewood, and you had the Black Wall Street and many others that were destroyed, burned down, because you had white women that said that a Black man did something. In the case of Emmett Till, it was a white woman who said A, B, and C, and Emmett Till was destroyed. Now, what I mean by that is that when you look at the suffrage movement, it was white women wanted to share power with white men. What happened is that Black women, unfortunately, some Black women brought into this construct, taking us away from the patriarchy into a matriarch, which is the destruction of our community, because you have to have strong men. Now, strong men. And a lot of times you have Black women who will say they're a strong, I'm a strong woman. This is my opinion on that. I think our women should not have to make statements like that. I think men are the ones that should be defining themselves as strong, and we should be leading our families and leading our women and our children, where women don't have to use these adjectives like they're strong women. I think a lot of Black women had to say that, and do say that, out of the fact that there are a lot of Black women that are raising families and children by themselves without a man involved. And as a result, playing two roles. They're playing father, they're playing mother, and out of that manifests itself this narrative that I am a strong woman because I do it all. The fact of the matter is nobody can do it all by themselves. It takes two. It takes a family unit, and I think that is where we lose. Yeah. Look at Ebony magazine. Ebony magazine is not what it is because its foundation is broken. I'm sorry. I'm going to step on some folks' toes. I think that Ebony is in the mess that it's in because it does not have its strong leader. It does not have John H. Johnson.
Right.
They do not have their leader. They do not have a strong black man who is the one who created the magazine, who had the vision to push it forward. What you have is a company that has become watered down. It does not have strong black male leadership that's maintaining the magazine. Now, I'm sorry if I'm stepping on toes. I don't mean to disrespect any ladies out there, but I'm just telling it like it is. It's not a coincidence to me that the magazine is having problems since his daughter took it over. The vision has gone elsewhere. Like you said, you've got this whole, you have this feminizing things that are injecting into the magazine with the feminism. It's gotten away from its rock source, which was John H. Johnson, from its vision. And now we're looking at a historical magazine of 77 years that at some point in time, once its assets are dried up, and I don't know how long the Clearview company, this Texas-based black-owned company, will be able to maintain control. But I'm saying that the day will come when one of these days we'll probably be old Lions Den.
Oh yeah.
I said, hey, remember that magazine called Ebony? Oh yeah, Ebony. Yeah, what happened to Ebony? Well, you know, Ebony back in 2019 had filed bankruptcy and had a few problems, and it got taken over by another black-owned company, but then they had problems, and now it's gone. And then remember that other magazine that went from paper to the digital internet? Yeah, internet. I remember internet. What happened to that? It's gone. It couldn't keep up with the trends of the market. So there ain't no such thing as Jet Magazine on the internet. That thing called the internet, because you know the internet's going to be something of the past. It's going to be something. I mean, we're foolish if we think that internet is going to be some innovative. There's going to be something else to make internet look like old news. Okay?
Right.
Computers are going to get better and better, and there's going to be something that is going to be their internet, but it's not going to be the internet that we're using. It's going to be something more powerful. And years from now, they'll be talking about how antiquated the internet that we're using is. And they'll be laughing. And remember the Negroes used to be on YouTube? Oh, whatever happened to YouTube? Yeah, that antiquated YouTube. Well, what the hell was YouTube? Well, let's go look in the microfiche and see what these Negroes was doing on YouTube. Okay, let's check it out, Dad. God damn, they sure is arguing all the time on these things called panels. These niggas just arguing. They're not getting nowhere. No wonder we ain't where we should be today, Daddy. What was those Negroes doing in the 21st century? What was they doing in 2019? Black folks just running their mouth. See, I'm giving y'all a revelation of why we should not judge other generations, because we will be judged by another generation ourselves, and they will say, what the hell were we doing? That's why we have to respect John H. Johnson and the visionary that he was. Where it's going now, not very good. But then I'm going to ask another question as we get ready to wrap this up, Lions Den.
Okay.
Because we talked about the other stuff. Could this also be a byproduct, as I asked earlier, that Black people, or people in general, we just don't support our own businesses? And that Ebony or Johnson Publishing is in the state that it's in because we, Black people, on YouTube and around the world, and in this country, we just don't support our own businesses. What do y'all got to say?
With real info, like I said, I think that that's part of it. What you just said, that we don't support our own business. Another part of it is that you have it's like competition now. You got other websites are competing what's best for Black people when it comes to Black love, Black issues. So it's all about the competition at the end of the day. I think that now when you look at it, I think Ebony and Jet, I'm telling you, they used to be one of the hottest magazines in the African American community.
Let me
And
just
then
let me just say this real quick. We got
yeah,
Just Being Patty. She says that Ebony magazine was phasing out way before the daughter took over. I'm gonna have to be very honest with her. She's right. Ebony was having some problems before the daughter took over, but it still doesn't change the fact. Did they? Now let me correct what I'm saying here, because there's facts and then there's fantasy. Did they, anybody in the chat room, do you believe that Ebony got away from its mission and from its goals? And that's why Ebony began to fade out, and now in the state that it is now, with a bankruptcy chapter 7, restructuring their organization. And like I said, it does not affect the publishing, but it does not mean that it could be the beginning of the end of this magazine. What do you all think? Now, let me see in here. We've got
Doug. Yeah.
We don't support. How did Ebony and Jet last 70 years? Magazines are obsolete now. They can't compete with social media. He's right, because you're right, Doug, because newspapers. How many people even read newspapers? Let me take you back, right? There was a time, Lions Den, what did most people read in this country?
Whoa. Okay. Most people read, I just basically saying People Magazine is one of them at that time. Basically, Wall Street Journal.
No, the main thing that people know, the good people do read Time, people do read Wall Street Journal, but what I'm trying to say is one of the main things that people would read were newspapers. You had the
Right.
Remember, you would go on the bus and you would see the old man or the person with a newspaper under their arms. When I go out into the world, how often do you see somebody with a newspaper under their arms? How often do you see newspapers on the bus or on the trains anymore? You don't see it anymore.
You don't see it.
Somebody reading sports or the sports section, right? I remember as a kid and as a teenager growing up, and even in my 20s, where you would have someone knock on your door and they would say, "Would you like to order a subscription to the Sunday newspaper?" And my mother used to get Sunday newspaper for a short time. And what did you get in the Sunday? You got the funny papers. You got, I know in San Francisco where I lived at too, you got the pink section, which would have the movies when you would actually look at what was playing at the theater. Phones, you had to actually look at a newspaper to see what was playing at the damn movie theater. And you had to read the paper to read the funny papers. You had to read a newspaper to get your information, folks. If you wanted to know about gardening and all kind of things, you had to read your Sunday newspaper. Who gets a Sunday newspaper anymore? Nobody has. I haven't, in all the years I've lived where I lived at, nobody's ever knocked on my door and say, "Sir, would you like to order a subscription to the newspaper?" You know why? Nobody's buying newspapers anymore. They're obsolete. Everything is gone digital.
I agree, Info. And the thing of it is that also you like you said, you explained about the newspapers. They don't even remember the time they threw newspapers in front of their front doors. You know that the one of them newspaper boys always throwing newspaper in the front door. They don't even do that anymore.
That's what I'm saying, brother. That's an obsolete practice. Nobody's doing that anymore because most people get their information from their phones, their tablets, their iPads, and that's where we're getting all the information from. So you don't need that anymore. It's a different generation, a different time that we're coming up in, and there's no telling. And so that's what I meant earlier when I said that the reason why Ebony is in this situation is that the Johnson Publishing has not kept up with the trends of what's happening in the market. Now, Mr. Patty just said that they were already fading away. That's true. However, the daughter has control of the business, and Johnson God bless his soul, he's not with us. He's not alive to deal with the strategy of today's social media. The daughter is. So you would think that with her age and living, that she would see the trends, and maybe let me just say, I don't want to be, maybe she does see the trends, but maybe they just don't have the assets to compete.
Right.
On that level scale. But it goes back to my question again. Maybe they do, and maybe Black people of this generation, the millennials, because you got to remember the 20 somethings and the 30 somethings, that's the millennial generation. Okay. And the Y generation, they didn't grow up having this affection to the Johnson Publishing and Ebony and Jet magazine the way me and you did, Lions Den, and maybe the others in the chat room. They didn't grow up. They grew up off of what? MTV. They grew up off of playing with their phones, video games. So they get their information from what? Their tablets and cell phones.
Right.
They have the same affection for these publications as me and you would have. So I think that has hurt them, which is why what they should have done is they should have figured out a way to bring back Ebony Jr., Ebony Man, to appeal to Black men and young men. They should have done certain things to appeal to this generation.
Right.
And I think they failed in doing so, or they failed, or either they don't have the assets to do it, or this generation just sees Ebony as something old and out of date, and it does not speak to them. And maybe it's something that speaks to an older generation, such as myself and those like you and people much older than us. It probably speaks to us, but it does not speak to them, because most of these kids growing up today did not grow up looking at the Ebony and Jet magazine on the coffee table of their grandparents and grandmothers, because many of these kids have grown up and they don't want, and they're not growing up seeing that. Ask yourself right now, how many barbershops do you go into right now that you see you can't see Jet magazine anymore because it's digital, right? But how many barbershops do you go into where you see a lot of Ebony magazines? You might see Source magazine. You might see some hip hop magazines on different hairstyles. You may see publications that speak to this generation. Because I've certainly been in barbershops and I don't see the Ebony magazines in there like you used to see it when I was a kid. You see where I'm coming from? It's generation.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, Info. It is about the generation. I think that, like you and I, we growing up, we always see on barbershops at our grandparents' house, we see Ebony and Jet in their living rooms. Nowadays, people who are born as millennials, they never experiencing it. They never even read any Ebony and Jet magazine, because they're not like you and I. They're not growing up to see it. But like they said, like you said, they only the generational now with millennials. They always looking at YouTube, BET, digital. You see everything is now on tablets and cell phones, and not with regular magazines and newspapers. And I agree with you on one thing too, that we don't like you said with newspapers. We see people on the buses, sitting in the buses, reading their newspapers. There is no newspaper unless, you check out the New York Times or the Washington Post. It's all on the website. It's not even on regular newspapers anymore, Info. So yeah, I totally agree with you that now all of this is now went digital. It's not even on regular newspapers anymore.
Yeah. So what I want to do, brother, why don't you give folks a shout out in the chat room? We got the Real Brooklyn. Thank you for coming through. Give everybody a shout out. We're gonna conclude the program for tonight. I want to thank everybody in the chat room, everybody out there in Spreaker listening, for coming on board and listening to us talk about this issue. We're gonna have plenty of other issues that will be coming up, and maybe next week I'll have a panel, get some folks on a panel to discuss some other issues that are on my mind. But go right ahead and give some peace to everybody in the chat room, Lions Den.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Information is power.
All right, Third Degree Burn TV, Just Being Patty, D Durrell, Cozy Girl World, The Real Brooklyn, Doug, Mr. Johnson, The Forbidden Fruit.
All right.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna go scroll back a little bit. Earl Owens. So Earl Owens, The Real Aaron Collins, Ray Knight. Let's see here. Kenneth Nash. I'm, I'm King K. Let's see, I'm going up. Lady M. Some Gotti 1623, Silk B scratching.
Okay.
That guy from Texas,
I
Six Figure
thank you
Days.
for being here. I appreciate we appreciate everybody. Earl Owens, we appreciate everybody. Gotti 1623. Thank you all for coming through to listen to us talk about this issue. We will be talking about these kind of issues. And also, everybody, I will be releasing maybe a pre-produced video. This is going to be talking about Chinese scientists as they start to play around with implanting human genetics into monkeys. You talked about Planet of the Apes. I'm going to get all up into this stuff with my pre-produced video, radio style. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to get all into that because I've got that to touch on. Lions Den, I've got to touch on this whole thing about them being able to make babies without men. They're talking about how they can use stem cells or skin cells or different cells from a man and a man to produce a child that is made up of the same genetics of both men or both women. They're playing around with genetics. They're pushing the envelope. You got this Chinese scientist who they're calling him out. A lot of the scientists around the world are calling him out for his experimentation with monkey, with using human genes. Hey, I believe a lot of these scientists around the world are already experimenting like this. They call this guy out, but I think they're already doing it. I'm going to touch into this story. This is something we got to talk about. We get up on YouTube and we get into these panels and we talk about all this stuff about what's wrong with black men, black women, relationships and all that. Black, everybody, you better wake up. There's a lot of things going on out here with science, transhumanism, this is called transgenetics. Is what I'm going to be talking about. You better wake up. Y'all talking about all this other fluffy stuff on YouTube. You better wake up because there's other things going on in the world that's going to have an impact on you. They got countries right now where they're already putting implants into babies, using that as the excuse to be able to say, well, by implanting the babies, we can make sure that your baby doesn't get lost from you. It sounds good, but that's the next step to get us all comfortable with microchips. You already got countries in the world where they're microchipping people in their hands and they're using the microchips in their hands to open up their cars, to do their banking, so on and so forth. This stuff is coming down the pipeline. So while we're on YouTube debating about what's wrong with black women, black men, we better wake up because they got a lot of heavy shit coming down on us. Talk about new world order. It's already here and it's coming by way of science. And I'm going to bring you this science. That will be the next presentation in my Black to Black series coming up very soon. Be on the lookout for my presentation about that, folks. I thank you all for being here. Lions Den, I thank you for being here, brother. It's been a pleasure.
Yes,
everybody, and enjoy the music as we begin to put a crescendo on tonight. Woo!
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
What's the vibe? Where you been? What you heard? It's absurd. It's insane. All these thoughts up in my brain. I know it's very hard to change. Now I'm thinking about the change. And all my mind steam. The emotions I feel. Every emotions I feel. Every emotions I feel. Know it's very hard to change. Now I'm thinking about the change. And all the money deal with the emotions I feel and the emotions I've I'm like done, I'll continue what is with you, not the same. Yeah, your heart has rearranged and the pain is taking name. What a shame, what a shame. I'm deranged, feel my pain. Grab the mic and go insane. Please just say about my lane. We all playing, it's just a game. Plays my pieces, make my game. Get the chink and lose my brain. That's the cycle, a disciple of the music. I might lose it, I might lose it, I might lose it. I'm alright, no, I'm not. That was just a fucking thought. That was just a blip in my existence. I have persistence. Have to stay with it. Have to stay with it. Have to have consistency, cause if they don't look at me, then I'll have a problem. And to think about it, maybe have to solve it. Oh my goodness, have to freestyle it a little bit, cause I think about this shit gets me really into it. I really didn't understand, but now I'm starting to get it. Now I'm starting to get it. I just have to get it.
You're listening to
Information is power.